Welcome to Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, the podcast that gives you an unfiltered, behind-the-scenes look at what it's really like being a woman in the middle who's over 50 and following her entrepreneurial dreams. Grab a superhero cape, girlfriend, because you deserve one. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach and Midlife Mentor, Suzy Rosenstein, and I am excited to inspire you with interviews that feature all of this midlife amazingness. Let's go. Hey there, welcome back to the show. We have another really exciting interview ahead of us about helping clients level up their client attraction. Today, you'll be meeting Catharine O'Leary, a woman in the middle entrepreneur who specializes in helping clients put a system in place that attracts their ideal clients, filtering out the unqualified tire kickers and freebie seekers. She is the quiz queen. Welcome to the show, Catharine. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Suzy. I'm very excited to be here.
This was really fun for me because I have taken one of Catharine's courses, and, had a lot of fun working together. So this was a real treat to see your name in my calendar. Now, I know we're going to have a great conversation today about your midlife entrepreneur experience. We're going to be talking about your business and what's going really well, and also what midlife issues might be getting in your way to some extent. A couple of hiccups here and there might be challenging for you as a business owner. So let's start out with how old you are, how long you've been an entrepreneur, and of course, what it is that you do in the world. So take it away.
Yeah. So I am 54, just turned 54 actually last week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I have been in business in my entrepreneurial journey since I turned 50. That was the year that I was let go from my last corporate job. And I, that was a global reorganization. No big deal, right? I've been in corporate now 25 years. It'll be easy peasy. I'll get back into something really great soon. And I spent 8 months chasing down every Tom, Dick, and Harry, if you will, and always came second in this interview processes. And by the 8th month or so, I just felt like I was banging my head against a wall. And I finally asked a recruiter who, off the record, I said, just off the record, my resume hasn't changed from the last time that I really kind of went out and I was, hired almost immediately. My, everything, nothing's changed except for I did turn 50. And I asked, is that an issue? Just tell me if I'm in for a long haul. And he was like, yeah, you kind of are. You're going up against people that, they can pay less and they know that. And that they're looking at you and thinking that you're going to bolt in 3 or 4 years. And doesn't matter what you say about that. That's what they're looking at. So I was like, well, then I got mad. Right. And so then I was like, well, you know what? Screw you then. I'll show you guys. And I was like, fine. I decided to take a break from, because I was just going to go insane. So I took a break from the job hunting and started an online business in network marketing and kind of dabbled in that for a little while. But I realized something very quickly, that I sucked at lead generation. It was terrible. And I was attracting all the wrong people. I was spending way too much time on sales calls that didn't go anywhere, way too much money on ads that didn't do anything. And it came to the point where you're hiding under the covers and thinking, holy crap, what have I gotten myself into? I might need to go back to court. I might need to figure this out and go back and maybe take a pay cut or, work something more junior. But the big deciding factor was I just didn't want to be in the car for 3 hours a day anymore. I'd gotten a taste of what that wasn't like, what it was like to be home all day and working away. And so I decided to figure it out. And so I went on a bit of a quest and found quiz funnels. And with my background in market research and consumer insights, which is what I did with corporate, that became an easy thing for me to kind of plug into and then build the business around. But it took a little while to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. It took some time to try some things that didn't work, to find the things that did work and build, and then, build from there. So now I help, entrepreneurs, particularly podcasters, broadcasters, and speakers really, get their client attraction strategies dialed in, attract those emails, really build your email list so that you are not just having followers or not just having subscribers, but you've actually got an email list that you can, connect with. that's something that you own. It's not rented space. And then, helping people take advantage of those resources once they have.
Well, what I love about your story is it's kind of it's a classic midlife hiccup to get laid off. I also got laid off the year I turned 50, and it was after 19 years in one place, 27 years in a career area. And it's jarring. Mm-hmm. And when you've been employed someplace for a long time, you're not used to imagining what's possible for yourself. And so this idea of the reinvention process being confusing, it is confusing because you've been like a corporate worker bee for such a long time and you knew how to think and dream for somebody else's agenda. But when it comes to your own, it can be quite confusing. So was that your experience?
Yeah. All of a sudden there were no parameters. All of a sudden it was like, well, you can do anything that you dream of. I'm like, but I don't even know what I'm dreaming of then.
That's right. I forgot how to dream. Exactly.
I'd forgotten how to dream, even because, you get lulled into this sense of security that isn't security, paycheck to paycheck and so on and so forth. That again, rented space, right? Like that can be pulled out from under you. And it was, for me, on a couple of occasions. That wasn't the first time. And all of a sudden to have this blank slate of, well, you can do anything. It's like, well, I don't even know what I'm good at. I'm good at market research and asking questions, but who's going to pay me to do that unless I'm like in my own corporate gig, right? And
yeah, well,
it's been a while to figure that out.
Absolutely. And asking that question, well, I'm good at this, but not being able to see how it's transferable is a very common block for midlife women. And this has come up, like I've been in this midlife space now for over 8 or 9 years. And yeah, it's like we've been so much in a tunnel of my skills are good for this. But somebody like you, and it was actually the same thing for me. It's like those skills that I've been really good at are, they have so much application to other areas. And the other thing that you found pretty quickly is, and by dabbling in network marketing, I did the same thing. It was like a baby step entree into being an entrepreneur, but you kind of get a handle on what the possibility potential is in the online space. And you start to meet a lot of entrepreneurs that are not seasoned professionals like they were in corporate, for 25 years or whatever. So there's a lot of people figuring it out, and you have a lot of inside scoop on all this marketing stuff. And when did it occur to you that a quiz might be something that would be super useful for so many of us in the online space?
So it was when I actually stumbled upon QuizFunnel and somebody that was teaching it. So I took the course, and with my background, I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is like asking the questions before you ask for the credit card. So instead of going straight for the sale from a question of, do you have this marketing problem? Like, do you have this problem to solve? Great. I have a solution. What's your credit card? That's a little too much like proposing marriage on the first date, right? It's creepy because you haven't gotten to know somebody. You haven't asked any questions. And that's what I was doing in network marketing, right? I've got this product. Great. Like you want it. And it was like, well, no, I actually don't. You haven't asked me the right questions. So when I started to try and figure out how to optimize my network marketing business, I found as I went through and tried to figure out this lead generation black box, I found the quiz funnels. I used it on my own business, my network marketing business, and I tripled my leads and doubled my sales. And I was like, well, dang, this works. Let me do it for a couple of friends and see, because it's kind of like that really great restaurant that you find and you tell everyone about it. Mm-hmm. I told everyone about quizzes, and it just all of a sudden it just grew into a business because it was just natural for me to think this way and to, help others kind of say, okay, wait, let's go back. Like what's their journey? What's your ideal client's journey to your solution? And how can we do that in 60 seconds or like 5 to 8 questions? Because it can be done, and it's very powerful when it's done correctly. It's very painful when it's done incorrectly or poorly. But done correctly, it's a powerful tool to build a relationship before you ever get on the phone with somebody. So, once I got passionate about it and I figured out, I can do this. Like this I can do in my sleep. Right? Like this, like for me, this is that zone of genius, if you will, that, I couldn't figure out how to get paid for it on my own. until I saw somebody else and could mirror that. So I think you and I were talking about before we got on live was, that white blank slate, that's hard to actually start from. But when you have something that you can kind of go, oh, I like that, or I wish I could do that, or I have the skills to do that, it makes it a lot easier to kind of put your own spin on it, put your own personality on it, and go from there.
Yeah, because the thing with the white space is you don't know what you don't know. So you haven't been used to dreaming. You haven't appreciated the transferability of your skills. You don't really know what you want. It's impossible to imagine what it could be without trying more things. And in my coaching, I always suggest changing the thoughts about figuring it out, not to figuring it out and having it wrapped up in a bow, but what can you do to take the next best first step? Mm-hmm. And you did that with a course. You leaned into it a little bit. You had no idea what you were going to learn or how much of a slam dunk it was with your own background and expertise, but you took a step and you exposed yourself to something else. And then you reacted to it and you noticed that. And I think that's really what happens with how people figure things out.
And actually, even before I took that step, I took a really big step in hiring or being part of a mastermind and hiring on like there happened to be 3 coaches, one in particular, a coach, because I realized that this whole entrepreneurial space, it's a totally different mindset. And people talk about that, but until you live it and you start trying to traverse it, it's a different way of thinking. It's the way that CEOs think. It's the way that people that start companies think 100%. It's not the way that the company's corporate is run, right? So that, when you're starting your own business and when you're getting into that thought process, it's a different muscle or few muscles. So I actually leaned in and spent way more money than I'd ever spent before on myself, other than my university degrees, and leaned in with some mentoring. And that took me to quizzes, and that took me to going back to the mentor and saying, okay, how do I make this work? And that got me on the path of, okay, this is how we can do this.
Yeah. And associating with other entrepreneurs and getting help is critical because exactly what you said, like you probably didn't have a ton of people in your existing network that had entrepreneurial mindset. And when you're with people who appreciate it right away, the conversations you have are different. I mean, it's no question about it. That's really good. Now, one of the things I like to ask about is what you've noticed about being an older woman. Mm-hmm. And we are older than we were. I don't mean old. I just mean, older than you used to be in a different midlife category now. And you mentioned that it was a bigger issue in corporate life. Can you explain that a little bit?
What I was noticing when I was at that 50 years old and going back to interviewing was that market research is a small community, especially in southwestern Ontario where I live. So, I know a lot of those people. I've worked with a lot of those people, but they were always junior to whatever I was doing. So, you start, the same, story where now you're being interviewed by the kid that you mentored at one point in time, which I actually don't have a problem with. Like, as long as, if someone's smarter than me or somebody's got a better, fit on, a certain job role or whatever, I'm totally fine with that. That's a little harder for them to hire me on, knowing that, I've got all this experience on them. There becomes and you could feel it with some people. There's an insecurity to that. I might be hiring my replacement. So no one ever says that out loud, but you can kind of read between the lines a little bit. So I was facing a little bit of that as I went through this process. I was probably also, honestly, subconsciously hoping not to get a job because I really didn't want to be back in the car. So there might have been a little bit of attitude. I'm not going to lie, affecting things, but it just, when it just doesn't fit anymore. Mm-hmm. Like it's a bad fitting suit and it's time to move on. Sometimes you just need to push out the door. And that was my push out the door.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, one of the ways that I talk about this in coaching, it was an example that somebody gave me that I love, and it's that this relationship is complete. And so your relationship with corporate, doing the work the way you've been doing, actually, even where you built your original success, that relationship was complete. And then I find that terminology for a one-on-one relationship or a relationship with an identity and a profession it's so respectful, it doesn't undermine it. It's just like, yep. And that was complete. And now we're going in this direction. And that's what you did.
Exactly. And I worked for some fantastic companies, worked with and for up and down the Fortune 100, right? So Pepsi, Apple, Adobe, like all fantastic companies. Can't say enough about them. Honestly, my time was done. In that lane, my time was done, but it took a couple of years to kind of figure that out. It took a couple of years to try a couple of things that didn't work. And, that can be scary too, because if you jump in all in and all of a sudden you've got the mortgage to pay and you got daycare and you got the kids and oh my God, soccer camps coming up or hockey camp or whatever. Like I get that. The thing is that once you learn the skills, you realize that you can kind of turn on and off the faucet whenever you want. So once you've got your systems in place, once you've got, your business kind of cooking, then it's a case of, okay, what the Beatles used to do this when John Lennon needed a pool. Okay, we need to write a song because I need a pool, right? So what do I need to do this week to make 10K because I need a pool or whatever, and that's different than corporate.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing you can do to get the pool other than, maybe hope for the bonus. That's all you really can do in corporate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so interesting. And tell me a little bit more about why you believe quizzes are like the obvious way to go for client attraction.
Because I believe that, first of all, it forces the business to get super clear on their ideal client and on that 3 a.m. question that their ideal client is struggling with in their words. Entrepreneurs tend to come up with the solution, and we forget that we're on the other side of the problem. We found the solution. We're now providing the solution. So we have all this language on, how the transformation has gone. We forget that not everyone knows about all this great, wonderful language and transformation on the other side of the fence. So what is it in their language, and what are they saying? So it forces that clarity of message, which will help all throughout your business. It forces you to really niche down and think of your ideal clients as that, then you're only talking to the people that are already ready to go, right? They're ready to buy. They're it's not a case of, well, let me tell you what I do. You've already learned that. Now it's just, how do I plug into your system? Do I plug in at a course? Do I plug it into, coaching, maybe one-on-one, whatever, VIP, whatever that looks like. And it's also a way just to start a relationship, because I think that there's a shift going on in the marketplace right now, away from the push energy, away from the, do this in the next 7 seconds because the deal's going to go away, that kind of salesy used car salesman feel. People are done with that. They want a connection. They want authenticity, and they are doing their research, and they want somebody that's going to be as interested in whether I fit for them as they fit for me. So they're looking for somebody that's asking both ways. Am I the best client for you? Are you asking yourself that? That's the person that I want to work with, because that's the person who's going to invest in me. So those are the kinds of questions that people are asking themselves now as they look for help. And that's something that a quiz can help you with in that 60-second framework, not 6 months of email nurture sequence or, a 3-day event that takes, 18 hours of your day or of your weekend. So that's what I believe.
Yeah. Interesting. And what would you say is the biggest mindset block that an entrepreneur has when working with you?
The biggest mindset block, I think it's getting out of the solution and getting back into the problem of the ideal client, and then how to connect the two. So how to connect the 3 a.m. question with your solution in a way that takes your client on a little bit of a journey, right? So it's okay, let's start at step 1 and then step 2. But you have to create step 1, step 2, because you are the creator of this universe, if you will. And so you get to dictate what that experience looks like. So you want to be careful of that. So I think it's just getting in that client mindset, honestly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, that's so cool. And what tell us a little bit about your quiz for your business.
My quiz.
Yeah.
My quizformybiz.com. My quiz is morphing right now. I'm actually about to launch a new one. So my first quiz was all about what quiz is best for your business. So what type of quiz, because there's, a personality type, what's your superpower? There's barriers, there's, what's stopping you or what's your biggest challenge, or maybe it's a score, are you a beginner? Are you, an expert? And I am morphing that into more of a what's your client attraction gap? Because there's a lot like, is it like, do you understand your 3 a.m. question? Do you understand the path from problem to solution? Do you understand how to give insight before asking for income? Because that's where people are kind of tripping up. And those are bigger conversations than just the quiz tool. It's just that a quiz tool can actually help you with all of that.
And what would you say you're focusing on right now in your business, in your life? Like, what's your main focus?
My main focus right now is this summer, I'm taking the time to go back through my systems and really kind of tighten them up and make sure that I've got, the automations working and the emails working, and I've got the right customer experience, in like when somebody buys something, they get the right welcome sequence and so on. Because as you start out, and this is fine, but as you start out, you kind of guerrilla warfare it and maybe duct tape it a little bit here and there. And then as you grow, you kind of got to go back and fix the things that are just barely working because they're going to break if you scale. So right now I'm just focusing on making sure that I can scale the business in a way that it's not going to break.
I love that. And you're right. Like at the beginning, just getting it out there is like Herculean.
and I'm all for, like nothing is perfect. Perfect is like done is better than perfect. Get it out there. I'm 100% on board with that, but just know that eventually you're probably going to have to go back and do a little bit of cleanup in the back end. And that's fine, because you don't know until you break things or until you realize that, like somebody didn't get their welcome email or somebody can't get into the portal, or it's like, oh, I still have that one email running and that was for a webinar that was 6 months ago. And that, that's all part of the learning. But as you scale up and as you get bigger, you need to have those processes in place to make sure that's already set up.
So glad you brought that up. That's so important and so good and so realistic.
Yeah. And it's not the sexy stuff. It's not
Right.
the really big, oh, look at this great new academy or this great new program. The thing is that it makes it easier to do those creative things. So once you've got the systems in place, you do that once. Right? Hopefully you do it once, you kind of get it all set up and get it working cleanly. And then you send that off to somebody else to manage. And then you've got more time to do the client interaction, do the one-on-one coaching, to do the creative content, things that you love doing or whatever your zone of genius is.
So good. Very, very good. I love it. So how can people best get a hold of you?
Honestly, that's through quizformybiz.com. So just go to quizformybiz.com, take the quiz. You'll see what one looks like live. And on the back end of that, you'll see, how to get connected with me.
Amazing. Quiz for My Biz is just so good. You're so lucky that you got that. That's perfect.
I know.
Well, amazing, Catharine. It's been so great talking to you about all of this and really fun for me too, because I've been inside your world, and to hear a little bit about your business and getting to know you a little bit, it's been so fun. I really appreciate how careful you're being step by step and how much you appreciate the advantages of your corporate experience, but also how amazing it feels to be on the other side of that right now at this point in your life.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening in. And, just, again, done is better than perfect, and just have some fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. So remember to breathe and have some fun.
Oh, I love that reminder. I'm all about fun. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for now. If you're listening and loving what you hear, please like and subscribe. Reviews are great too and much appreciated. And if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 or over and an entrepreneur and would also like to come on the show, please go to www.midlifeinterviews.com and fill out an application. We'd love to have you on to share your story. Thanks so much for listening. It's never too late to put yourself on your agenda. I'm Suzy Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you again soon. Now, real quick before we say goodbye, if you are connecting with this show, I'd love to invite you to a happiness breakthrough coaching session. It's my laser-focused coaching call that will help you get clear about what's getting in your way as a woman in the middle entrepreneur and confident about your next steps to more happiness in your next chapter. Head over to www.nextchapterbreakthrough.com. Talk to you soon.